Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today I'm showing you my first 2 weeks of CSA produce this year. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and I've been part of a CSA for 3 or 4 years now, where I get fresh produce from a local farmer every week from about April or May until November to December. So in this video, I'll show you what I got for the first couple of weeks, how I wash it and use it. But before I get into that, I also wanted to mention that there's only a few more days left of our 30-day Eat More Plants challenge. For everyone who joined in, I hope it's going well, and don't forget, if you want to keep the momentum going, the downloadable calendar also includes a blank monthly calendar, so you could roll right into another 30-day challenge if you like. I've enjoyed hearing from everyone who took on the challenge, so feel free to drop more comments below. But for now, let's get into today's video. Usually in the spring, we get lots of leafy greens, and this year was no exception. But the first couple weeks, we also got a few leftover storage crop items from the fall. So here's week 1. We got potatoes, Swiss chard, a couple bags of mixed bitter greens, 2 bunches of kale rapini, which is a mature flowering kale plant, so it has tender leaves and sometimes flowers. Next up is a couple bags of spinach, and finally some Cayenne Bravo radishes. These were also leftover storage crops from the fall. If you've never had them before, they're really pretty and can be used in any way that you would use a regular radish. The first year I joined the CSA, I was eating all of this produce myself, but I've been eating with my parents a lot more in the last couple of years, so my mom and I have been splitting the produce each week. So after we split everything, I try to wash my portion as soon as I can. So I scrubbed the radishes while I had the leafy greens soaking in water. I usually add a little bit of vinegar to the water as well, and I let those sit for 10 or 15 minutes. Since this is fresh off the farm, it can sometimes be quite dirty. The farm I buy from does wash some of their produce ahead of time, but I always wash it again. And depending on how dirty it is, I sometimes rinse everything 2 or 3 times. And then I'll spin the greens in a salad spinner to dry them off while I wash the next batch. With the Swiss chard, I like to separate the stems. Once everything is clean, I keep it in storage containers in the fridge. When I get this many leafy greens, I usually run out of containers like I did on this day. So I decided to go ahead and cook the spinach right away so it would take up less space. As you may know, spinach cooks way down, so this entire giant bowl cooked down to just this tiny little amount. So I stored that in the fridge and ended up using it the next day to make a potato spinach casserole. Then on another day, I took the kale, chopped it up, and popped it in my Instant Pot with a cup of water for 3 minutes. I've actually never steamed kale in my Instant Pot before, but I wanted to try it out, and I really enjoyed it. It makes the kale super tender and easy to eat. When we split the produce, my mom had taken the potatoes, and that weekend she made mashed potatoes for us. And I also cooked up the Swiss chard for us to eat that weekend as well. We usually cook our greens with some onions and garlic and season them really simply with just balsamic vinegar, or maybe sometimes we'll use coconut aminos or tamari. Finally, the purple radishes are good sliced thinly on salads, but since we got so many this time, we decided to try pickling them. I sliced them up and added them to a few mason jars, and I used basically the exact same quick pickle method that I used in a previous video where I pickled peppers. I'll put a link for that video in case you're curious to see the whole process. These purple radishes are pretty to begin with, but after pickling them, they turned into this absolutely gorgeous pink color. We weren't sure how these would turn out since we'd never tried it before, but we were pleasantly surprised. They literally reminded me of salt and vinegar chips, which used to be one of my favorite junk foods. So that's what I did with the first week's produce, and then week 2 we got a very similar haul with lots of greens. On this week we got potatoes and some onions, 2 bunches of rainbow chard, some arugula, 2 giant bags of lettuce, and finally more spinach. But this week it was red spinach, which is really pretty. It almost looks like baby Swiss chard. Once again, I tried to clean everything as soon as possible, and I ended up using everything in similar ways to the first week. When you join a CSA, you may get a wider variety of produce than what you would buy at the grocery store. So your weekly menus will usually revolve around whatever you get in the CSA. This is perfect for me because the way I like to cook is just to look at what I have on hand and throw something quick and easy together. And being part of the CSA forces me to try different vegetables that I may not always buy for myself. Plus, I love knowing that I'm supporting my local economy and getting the freshest produce possible. I hope this video inspired you to check out your local options for fresh produce, whether it's a farmer's market or a CSA. And if you want more videos like this and to see the variety of produce you can get from a CSA, I'll include a link here to an old playlist of videos that I made when I first started my YouTube channel, where I showed what I was getting from my CSA and how I was using it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.